Bem-vindos a mais um episódio ou uma live aqui no Don't Panic, It's Organic. E hoje, uma live muito especial com um amigo que eu tive o prazer de conhecer no Brighton SEO do ano passado. Oh, shit. That's it. Going back here. A gente vai falar de GEO, tá? Tive um probleminha técnico aqui com o YouTube, tive que silenciá-lo aqui, mas vamos lá. So, Andrew Holland, thank you very much for accepting our invitation to chat about this very polemic, skeptic topic that's revolving around us. So, hey, please, what we do here is it's very simple chat so we can understand each other, share your views into everything. But please introduce yourself to people that don't know who Andrew Holland is.
Felipe, thank you so much for that introduction. I don't know what you said at the beginning, but I love the Portuguese language. You know,
I had a little technical issue, so I had to kind of mess things up.
I just love it. It sounds so amazing. I wish I could speak Portuguese. Everybody, thank you so much, Felipe, for this invite. My name's Andrew Holland. I'm the director of SEO at a digital PR agency called JBH, and we're based in the UK. And we work with very large brands. We have small brands. And I've been doing SEO professionally for 10 years, but I have a really unique background as I was a police officer for 20 years. And that's where I learned SEO, because I actually worked with a search engine in the police, and my role was to recruit informants for a long period of time. And we had a search engine, which was a very entity-based content engine. And I use SEO to catch criminals and disrupt criminal organizations, which is a big subject, but not for today. But yeah, that's how I did. Yeah, so that's how I learned it. And I left 10 years ago. I developed ill health. I had asthma, very severe asthma, so I left, started my own agency. And I worked, developed my own agency for a long time. That was very successful. Then I went in-house at a bigger agency, and then I left there and where I'm at now at JBH.
I never caught that one when we talked about back in the November in San Diego at Brighton SEO, that you use SEO to catch criminals.
Yes, I did.
Come down to Brazil, man. We've got a lot of them in Brasilia.
Well, yeah, I mean, yeah, it's such a big subject that I'm not allowed to talk about. I mean, to be honest with you, I don't know how much they do anymore, but the actual link between how criminal organizations grow and how businesses grow is virtually identical. So that's allowed me really to actually leapfrog a lot of things, because once you understand the connections between criminals and businesses and brands, and how the laws of growth happens and how search engines happen, you can link an awful lot together, which is kind of like where my weird mind works, is that I've had this massive level of experience working within criminal networks. I understand how networks outside of that work, and I can apply the lessons there. So that's really the superpower that I have, that it's having this massive wad of experience in another sector that absolutely replicates or is just the same as ours. And once you understand that, it's a fascinating subject, and I'm actually talking about this in Amsterdam at the end of the month. But yeah, it's interesting. But yeah, it's been a crazy journey.
Oh, you're gonna be at Spotlight, yeah?
Yes, I am.
Yeah, cool. I'm gonna miss that one. Didn't plan myself to go, but maybe next year speaking as well. So we'll see.
Hopefully.
Andy, our industry has been taken by a storm, right? By a flux. Everything has changed since ChatGPT. I bet now if you used to catch criminals with Google, now with ChatGPT, Perplexity, it's gonna be no crime in the world anymore. But rolling back to our industry, what's going on in our industry nowadays, or in search, in the world in general, right? ChatGPT, Perplexity, Google AI overviews, Google AI mode. All of that has really put an inflection point into our industry, right? Into SEO. I have been doing SEO for almost 20 years now, I think roughly the same as you. And I never seen such an inflection point in the industry with the, right? Okay, we had Rank Brain, Hummingbirds, this and that, and nothing Mobile-geddon and so on, but nothing as disruptive as these new technologies. And that kind of impacted on the search results, on the way people search, everything. everything is changing. So I'm just going to start with one very straightforward question. Is GEO just a buzzword? And also, if you could, for those that don't know what GEO is or is becoming, please answer these two introduction questions to us.
Thank you. Okay, so first of all, it's not a buzzword. So Generative Engine Optimization, GEO, is the terminology that has caught fire in an industry. And as we discussed before the call, bigger brands now are starting to use the term GEO and pass it, and generally that's a sign that it's sticking. There's a lot of different debates about what GEO is, what it isn't, the tactics behind it, and it's going to shatter the SEO industry. I don't care who you are. We are entering a world where conversations about search engine optimization and its effectiveness are radically changing. And the way I like to view generative engine optimization is from a business standpoint. And there are three kinds of availability. I didn't make these things up, by the way. So there's two well-known kinds of availability in marketing, and they were terms created by the Ehrenberg Bass Institute of Marketing Science. And they are physical availability and mental availability. Well, mental availability is the likelihood of being of a brand being thought of in a buying situation, and physical availability is the ease and convenience of being purchased from. They are the defining terms. And if you increase mental and physical availability, your brand will grow. And this is a brand marketing terminology, nothing to do with SEO. Traditionally, search engine optimization has increased what we call physical availability. We rank higher for buyer intent search terms. And what we do is make it easier and more convenient to buy from it. If someone types in best red trainers, if you show up for that search term or on page one, you are more easy and convenient to buy from. And as a result, you increase the likelihood of being purchased from. Now, SEO, unfortunately, then went on this weird tangent, and we started becoming information peddlers, and we were going after traffic graphs, and that's a massive subject in itself. But if we look at AI, what it does is, I'm going to introduce something called AI availability. It's not, I didn't create the phrase. It created by Byron Sharp, Professor Byron Sharp at the Ehrenberg Bass Institute, and he made a comment once about it, saying that everything's going to be about AI availability, where what you're doing is you're increasing the likelihood of AI recommending your business in a buying situation. And it is exactly that. And we're going from being SEO, as in optimizing web pages for higher rankings, matching keywords, to absolutely increasing the likelihood that AI will recommend your business. Now, the reality is that most people aren't using AI right now. I mean, it's 10% of all adults. I believe ChatGPT has got usage. Everyone's still using Google. That is the reality of it. But what happens in a very, very big switch is that Google will eventually turn on AI mode as default. And that's going to come. They've already said that. They're going to become the ChatGPT. They want to be ChatGPT. They were caught slightly off guard with this. They're moving to that. This is all the disruption has been around this. And eventually they're going to move to this new channel of AI mode, which is going to be very similar to ChatGPT, because frankly, ChatGPT is a better search engine than Google. And there's reasons behind that. So our industry for generative engine optimization is all going to be about increasing the likelihood that certain businesses are recommended by AI in buying situations, because if we increase that likelihood, then a business is more likely to grow in the future. But when I say this is absolutely going to destroy SEO as an industry, it is 100% going to do that. And it's going to happen like a click, like Thanos in the Avengers. Google is going to click their fingers and going to wipe out the SEO industry. And it's not just going to happen over. It'll happen, they'll phase it in. It won't just be overnight for every country. One day it'll be like in a week, it'll be for the US, and the next week it'll be the UK and the rest of the world. It's going to be a click, gone. They're going to move when they figure out the ad model, and they will figure that out. When they figure that out, they will launch. And at that point, we are in the Blockbusters versus Netflix situation. So Blockbuster went extinct because it didn't believe in streaming, and streaming was a damage to its existing business model. Google, to its credit, is recognizing the threat that they have from ChatGPT and is now adapting their models to become an AI-focused product. And the reality is SEO, as we know it, is going to be destroyed.
I really loved your analogy here, or referencing back to Blockbuster and Netflix, because that is something that we really need to think about in terms of things will change. Yeah, and he said, I think what's holding Google back, I agree with you, is that they haven't figured out the ad model yet, because they can't really kill their main revenue stream, right? And once they do it, that's it. And I bet they have, well, they've always done that. They have the ideas, they're just testing it out. And yeah, when it comes out, it's going to be just a snap of a fingers. But that said, we are seeing some studies. There were a couple of published like late in September, like early, the past 2 weeks at Search Engine Land, which you are an author. I love your articles there, by the way.
Thank you.
One of them said, let me use my cheat sheet here. Google still sends 831 times more visitors to publishers than AI systems. Google processed 2,210 times more searches than ChatGPT. That's like billions against millions and so on. That said, how urgent is for companies, agencies, professionals to really think about GEO?
I think that depends on how leveraged you are in search as a model. So if you are heavily invested in paid search and heavily invested in organic search as drivers of revenue, this presents a significant threat to your business. And I just see what happens is, and this is another thing people can't get their head around. So you grow to the size of your inquiries, don't you, and your leads. That's the reality of it. So if you're a factory and you've spent a couple $100,000 on organic search optimization, you've then spent a couple $100,000 a year on paid search, and you've grown significantly year over year. You've grown a couple % every year. You've had to build a new factory. You've had to build and you've become very used to the actual organic and paid and organic search traffic coming in that fuels your business. Now, Google doesn't owe you a penny. It's like, okay, we'll do what we want. And they're a business at the end of the day. And when they change, if you're heavily leveraged on paid and organic search, this will make massive impact to your business. I'm expecting many, many businesses to go bankrupt. Now, I actually think what's going to happen is you're going to see the demand for things hasn't changed. There's still the same number of people wanting red running shoes as there was before. It's that business will go in various different angles. And I think initially there'll be a fast boost for many businesses. They'll get sales. I think it will splinter. I think it will go to some people who have accidentally optimized for this without knowing. I think all of a sudden the traffic will be very diverse to different places and different people, and it empowers buyers. It does. The best place to hide a body was on page 2 of Google. Well, unfortunately, AI is like its own search team, and it's going to go in your house, going to look under your floorboards, it's going to look everywhere, and it's going to find everything. So it empowers users, and I think if you are a brand that's heavily leveraged on organic and paid search, you need to take this incredibly seriously. If you're not, then you need to look at this as an opportunity as well.
You mentioned about dead bodies in the second page of Google. So when you were working as a police officer, how many you found on the second page? I'm just joking.
I found a lot of dead bodies, but that's another subject entirely.
But not on the second page of Google, right?
No, none were there. No, I looked, but none were there.
Before we move on to the mechanics and implications of GEO, Andrew, I would like to ask you about, there's a lot of skepticism in the industry within our community, right? Our colleagues of long time SEOs and so on. They're just saying that GEO is just rebranding SEO with another word, or it's a marketing fluff. How are you responding to that? Because I've seen you like an Avenger fighting against Thanos, because the old SEOs are Thanos and we are the Avengers. Say, no, you need to worry about that because it's going to wipe us out. And I'm seeing the same, I'm fighting the same battle here in Brazil, you know, in terms of like people are just saying, oh, you can sell GEO because GEO doesn't exist. And this, it's just marketing fluff. I'm seeing you giving some lectures on LinkedIn. How are you idealizing all of that? How are you responding to all those critics, which some of them are professionals that I was mentioning to you on the backstage here. I really looked up to for many years, and we have been an industry that's always been like discovering, understanding how Google works. We've been doing this for 20 years, 30 years, whatever, maximum 30. I think Google has only 27 years. Yeah. So search engines. And we don't even understand how Google works. And you have people with 2 years of ChatGPT saying, no, this is how it works, and you should just do the SEO. I'm like, I'm skeptic about it. Say, come on, guys, we have always been the ones that question everything, like countered Google opinions, and now we're just going with, it's just simple SEO. How are you fighting that?
Well, I get a lot of abuse, and I like, if I was to share some of the messages I get sent, it'd be shocking. So I block a lot of people now and LinkedIn, because there's a lot of people wanting arguments, especially late at night. I think people have a drink and then start, especially SEO. So first of all, I think people are threatened. I think people are threatened, and they're attacking things that are different, and they're attacking with intellectually weak arguments by just saying it's SEO and things like that. And there's a lot of backpedaling now anyway. So first of all, it's nothing to do with SEO at all. It's natural language processing. So, and search engines are based on natural language processing as well. The difference is that natural language processing has been one tiny element of search engines that hasn't evolved a great deal. It's been around, natural language processing has been around for 50, 60 years. I mean, literally, they've been working on this. Experts have been working on this for decades, and it's a hugely rich area, and the technology is advancing, which Google is leveraging in its search systems. Now, the truth is that when you add natural language processing within large language models as a filtering system on top of that, you're applying a massive logic base. You're changing the user interface of search. So whenever technology changes, it's the user interface which makes a difference. Uber is a fantastic analogy of this. Uber changed the way we access transport across the planet, and Gojek and others that have copied the same model, or maybe even, I don't know who founded it first, but that model of where we go to a different user interface, and that's all we're doing now. That it's changing how we access search and interact. It's a level on top of that. So to say it's just SEO is absolutely fundamentally flawed, and also it's technically flawed as well. Now, there are people out there that have been promoted to positions of authority for various reasons, legacy media, legacy SEO companies who have been promoting individuals, especially in the US, I have to say. Those are the keynote speakers and so forth, who can give very big opinions on this to protect their own business models. And I don't really want to attack individuals, but that's what we're seeing here.
That's not the idea here.
Yeah. So what we're seeing is individuals at the top of the food chain, which you want to call it that, who are saying it's just SEO and then replicating it. If those individuals said it's not SEO from the very beginning, it's something different, then everybody would be saying it's something different. That's just the nature of marketing. But to say it's the same as SEO is fundamentally and technically wrong. It's completely different. It's a different user interface. It's like saying Uber is just taxi driving. It's not. You know, it's a radically different approach. How I'm attacking it is like one punch at a time. You know, one round at a time.
It's a good boxer.
Yeah,
one boxer.
And that's all you can do. And now it is draining, and I'm trying to be sympathetic to a lot of people, and I do try and respond to people who just give it, and I try and articulate. But in actual fact, is people are getting quite nasty about that, and they're coming with the same argument. So their argument is, show me what's different. Show me what difference is tactics. Well, actually, first off, you can say that it's mostly PR based. The studies are showing that 75% of GEO is arguably PR. The rest of it is copywriting, and it's very little technical optimization for sites. And in fact, to be honest with you, I think there's very little on that. It doesn't look, it's not about ranking. You can rank what you're going to rank for, first of all. So I had the other day an SEO said it's keywords, focusing on keywords is like so outdated. Well, hold on. Keywords is what paid search focuses on. You know, that's the truth. So what we're going to do, turn around and say we're not focusing on what paid search is focusing on now. So in reality, what you've got is a lot of absurd generalist statements that are being thrown around SEOs who don't want to engage in this and don't want to look at this as an opportunity and don't want to talk about this. Now, I understand why. It's a defensive mechanism to protect their careers. But I assure you, you do not want to be the person that dies on the it's just SEO hill. Because if you're telling your clients and everyone else it's just SEO, as this gets bigger and bigger, you are going to look completely foolish and outdated, especially with your clients who turn around and said, you just said it was just SEO. Why have we lost all our traffic? And as another quite well-known SEO said to me the other day, if you're not talking about AI search, you are going to commit career suicide as an SEO. So, and I'm generally telling people like, Luke, it is not SEO. Do not hide from this. I don't think we're going to have SEO as a profession in a very near future. I think we're probably going to have organic search strategists as a role. I think that's a very, very big role. I think that's going to command very high salaries, and I think it's going to be very important. But SEO as a thing is going to change, and we have to change with it.
When you said about Uber and taxi, it's just like that, because I don't know in the UK, but when Uber came into Brazil, the taxi drivers were attacking the Ubers, like physically attacking, you know, ranting onto them, like trashing their cars and so on. It's just like the GEO. I think it's complementary. We are using GEO as the expansion pack. When I talk to my clients, I even went to LinkedIn to explain to the community, which I don't really need to do anything for them, but you know, just a matter like being nice. I said, look, it's an expansion pack. Imagine you have a video game and new scenarios just came up. So you buy the extension pack. This is it. We have SEO. Now we have all the other search engines or generative engines, whatever you want to call them. That's GEO. So it's an expansion pack. It's not replacing it. It might replace in the future, as you're saying. Maybe I think so as well, because as everything becomes AI search, then maybe the traditional SEO, as we know, might change into GEO. I don't know, but let's not create too much polemic on that one. And as you said, people say it's not about keywords, about topics. Okay, keywords and topics, similar thing, right? And people that say SEO is not about rankings, it's not about position. So how the hell do you generate traffic? How the hell do you generate awareness if it's not ranking? Come on, man. It's the essence. It's the core of SEO, right? Okay, you can't really go to a client and say, oh, I can put you in first position for everything. But I do say that because it shows confidence, right? I might not reach all those top terms, but I'm fighting for it. I need to show the client that, you know, I need to at least try for it. Someone comes to you and says, Andy, can you find that killer? No, well, maybe I'll see if I can do it. Oh, how the hell the police officer works like that? It's just like an SEO, not saying that you cannot rank. It is about ranking. It is about search terms, which are keywords, which are topics. So people just go with the fluff, and then, you know, that's what happens, right? So that said, Andrew, how GEO is changing the SEO playbook. New levers, new metrics, new content strategies. What is coming into you? How are you preparing for that? How are you working with this new scenario? And obviously, there's something different, but what's the playbook?
So if I'm honest with you, Philip, I think you've hit on some very, very good and interesting points there, really. And first of all, we can't undersell it. SEO is a hard thing to sell anyway. And it's been hard because what we've done is said, buy now, get results 6 months later. That's the truth behind it. And if we sold SEO for exactly how it worked, we wouldn't sell any SEO. That's the truth behind it. But that's the same in marketing. We've got to present that we're here to build a better world for the clients. You invest in search engine optimization. Now, look, me and you are both long enough in the tooth to understand SEO and how the industry works and how long it takes and everything else like that. But people can disagree with everything we're going to say. But the reality is there's what I'm about to share is largely mind-blowing in itself. So there's lots of studies out there, and one in particular, and I mentioned Ehrenberg Bass a few times because they are really the world's leaders in marketing, and that's their job, is to analyze marketing. And they did a study that talked about how brands actually grow. Now, in truth, most brands don't grow. You're talking about, if you're lucky, a 1% increase in revenue across a year if you're lucky. Most is 0.4%. Now, what you do with marketing itself is defend your current marketing share with the hope that you can grow a tiny amount. But we can't sell that. No one's going to go to an SEO agency and say, I'm going to help you grow 0.4% this year if you're lucky. It doesn't work like that. So what we are is it something that people invest in, and it works over a prolonged period of time. And over a prolonged period of time, you'll get the benefits from SEO because you're getting that investment. Now, what also happens with search engine optimization is people stop investigating in theirs, and then you make leaps. And you hire a good agency that's got a good strategy, and you're able to leap ahead of people. But it's very, very competitive, and you're investing in SEO for the future of your business, to defend market share, to gain a little bit of market share, and to work. And that's the truth. And when you look at it through those realistic lenses, that's why the best SEO agency is the one that comes in at the end, not the first, so, and they get all those case studies. Look at me, I achieved this result. But usually any award-winning SEO agency is standing on the shoulders of several agencies before it to get where they got, and they just managed to push the client over the line. And that's the reality of it. And we don't talk in these terms because it won't help selling SEO, and everybody wants this great story, and I understand why. So generative engine optimization flips things on the head, really, because rankings disappear. You can't measure anything. It's very challenging. People are trying to measure things like blog post citations, and which offer no brand value. So in essence, generative engine optimization is very closely aligned to paid search in terms of 1 minute you're there and 1 minute you're not. So when somebody does enters a search query into Google right now, paid ads appear, and those paid ads don't appear every time because they're in a bidding system and so forth. No different than what happens with organic search. Really, you only get charged with the click in paid search, and that's the result of it. In GEO, you're paying essentially for the same thing. You're paying to increase the likelihood of being recommended by search engine, because you can't guarantee it, because every prompt is different. Everything takes in different considerations. There is absolutely no precision to a degree, but what you can do is optimize a brand for its performance attributes, and you look at the levers differently, because you can look at things from a brand marketing point of view to say, what are the performance attributes of this brand, not what the page title is, the headers and things like that. What does this brand actually do and what offer it? And the reason why people are saying, oh, it's just SEO, show me a tactic, is because what they do is, when you say, well, it's on page and off page, they'll say, oh, well, that's just the same as SEO. But you're optimizing for completely different things. It's like saying milk is the same as water because it's wet, and there are two very different things entirely. So there are going to be emerging tactics. We're currently doing a study, and it's blowing my mind of what I'm seeing. Because what you're dealing with is the logic of a large language module. You're dealing with artificial intelligence, who is absolutely finding things and making decisions on your behalf before he even gives you the content or the websites to recommend. There's tons of tactics you can do. There's lots of things that are out there. Largely, it works off information entropy. So what happened in the SEO industry, we had all these tools, Phrase, Surfer, Market Muse, and all the rest of them, that basically looked at the current ranking web pages on page one and said, you need these topics on your pages to rank for page one. So we end up with these massive websites that just look the same. Go in the insurance space in the UK, every website's virtually identical, same headers, same everything, same page titles. There's no difference there. And large language models know all that information about what is an insurance company, why you need car insurance, and so forth. They don't need that information. What they're looking for is points of difference. They're looking for brands. They're looking for signals, which are very, very different. And that's information entropy. It's got to look for differentials so it can make a decision. And there's loads of things that it looks at in addition to that, and loads of filtering systems. So tactically, it's completely different. It's more aligned to PR and copywriting, brand marketing than it has anything to do with search engine optimization. And SEOs themselves need to get their head around a couple of metrics. The first is share of search. Share of search is a metric created by Les Binet, who's called the godfather of marketing effectiveness. He's the guy behind many of the world's best TV ads. And he came up with share of search to indicate it's a proxy for understanding how much demand there is for your brand. It's how much people are searching for your brand compared to like competitors. If your brand search is going up and your competitors is going down, you are likely to have more business in the future. And it's about an 85% correlation. If your brand search is going down and your competitors are going up, you're going to lose business in the future. So share of search is a great metric anyway. And then also you got to look at buyer intent search. What are the clicks you're getting from buyer intent search? Because if someone's not clicking on your website and clicking through to your website on the pages that have buyer intent, then you're not going to be able to sell anything in the future. It's just irrelevant. So homepage, buyer intent search, what's your share of that in relation to the market? And you can use tools to measure these kind of things. And then the third, obviously, is your informational content. You know, is it buyer intent or is it just informational? And if it's informational that's just broad and topically relevant to your sector, it's highly unlikely that you're going to get any kind of revenue from that in the future anyway, because AI is going to synthesize that. And it'll synthesize some of your buyer intent traffic, but you've gotten a chance to get a click through for that because it's buyer intent. So we're going to have to change every metric we've ever needed in the search engine industry to deal with this impending future. We're going to have to become more aligned with marketing. We're going to have to become more strategic. But, and I say this is a big but, for those who do get their heads around this, and they get their heads around first, and there's something called the OODA loop, you know, the orientation of how fast you come around the loop. For those who come around the loop fastest, you will be rewarded the best, because I can walk into a room with CMOs, with boards, and have a very logical conversation about generative engine optimization from the most advanced technical level to the most broadest and turn it into simple terms. If you can do that, then you are going to be on a path to riches and print money. All you've got to do is get your foot in the door. If you can't do that and you can't articulate what search engine optimization is in the future, being GEO, and how it works and how that relates to revenue, as a search engine optimist or optimizer, you are going to struggle, because the things you're talking about are not the things that people are going to see and experience online. So now, that means complete reinvention of our industry. It means complete reinvention of ourselves. But let's face it, right? The copywriting industry and content marketing industry, and that's a big sector, by the way. Content marketing, I think, is going to be huge, but that's another subject. But the content marketing and copywriting sectors were thrown under a buzz over the last 2 years. AI completely destroyed those sectors. And now it's SEO's turn to be thrown under the buzz. We are going to get thrown under the buzz. And I'm telling the buzz it's not a buzz is kind of irrelevant to the conversation. You know, we need to learn how to evade it and get on the buzz. That's what needs to happen. How do we stop the buzz and flag it down and get on board? Because we're not on board, or the vast majority of the industry isn't on board with the AI buzz. And until it does, until it yields, you know, you've done the BJJ, Philippe, you know how it works. Until you yield to that energy and go with it, you're not going to be able to throw this industry forward.
You need to work with the force that's coming. That's BJJ, you know? Yeah, the subtle art. But you mentioned a few things there, Andrew, which I really loved. You said about, you know, it's the same view that I had in terms of finally SEO has entered the marketing room. We need to be there. We need to be in the marketing budget finally, you know? We need to be talking with the CMOs. They need to bring us to the marketing plan of all the brands and everything, because it's an integral part. I've been talking about that since 2018, I think, in terms of how should be integrated. It's hard people to understand. People still think about as a technical thing. I don't know if you remember at the end of my talk at Brighton SEO last year, I said, finally, SEO is about SEO. Okay, we're talking about GEO here. What's going on about? But because there are different search boxes now, you know, you have Google, you have ChatGPT, you have Perplexity, you have TikTok, you have Instagram. So we need to understand that it's not just about Google anymore. And it's not just about gaming the system. It's about educating the system. It's about how you build your online presence, how you build your digital footprint, and how original you are. You said about information entropy. Yeah, that's the term you use.
Entropy,
yeah.
Information entropy.
And,
yeah. Entropy. I actually don't know whether it's entropy or entropy. I don't know how to say it, but yeah.
Also on that talk, that I don't know if you remember as well, I showed how I'm using the information gain score that Google calculates to rank as fast as possible in SERPs here in Brazil against my competitors, because we are a subdomain in a .co.uk domain competing against .co.br which are low, like well-established websites, and I show them everybody follows two guys here in Brazil. They are either Neil Patels or Brian Deans, and all the SERPs and everybody that produces content, either for SEO and other things, they follow the same guidelines. And then you look at the SERP, you search for what's SEO or how to do e-commerce SEO. They're all the same. 32 tactics for these, 22 tactics, blah, blah, blah. And I came with our way of doing things, like the Hedgehog way of doing things, the 6 pillars of SEO, the technical triad, and so on, adding information to it. So the minute we publish an article with the information gain that is higher than everybody else, it's not the same, Google sees that and puts us on the first page.
Yep.
So it's still about ranking, it's still about positioning, obviously. And we have been building the digital footprint of Hedgehog here in Brazil to show that we're not just a website. We have Don't Panic, It's Organic. We have the talks. So I think everything that you said there correlates to what we're doing. But that said, I just said SEO is about SEO. There are many search boxes that we need to optimize for. How do you build or architect a strategy that's engine agnostic yet coherent? And do you build in like different pipelines or a unified system? Is just one size fits all and it spreads to all the search engines or the generative engines? How are you working with all these different places? Because the results from Google are different from ChatGPT, that are different from Perplexity, and so on.
Okay, that's a great question. So and essentially we've got to align with brand marketing. So and that's the truth here. We have to align with brand marketing. This whole idea of keywords are impoverished search queries. Humans developed keyword strategies to find information because that's the best way to find information. The large language models can understand a problem, and we're at the very, very tip of the bell curve here of users. So right now, we remember when we all said everyone was going to be prompt engineers. That was going to be the career of the future. That seemed to die a death. The reality is that you're going to learn how to do what's called CIS, conversational informational seeking, and we're going to develop. Humans are going to develop strategies Now it will be voice search. Everyone's not. I don't even type very often anymore. I use a voice typing system, and everybody's going to go to voice search. That's the way it will, and that'll work. So everything's going to be very conversational. Everything's going to be more communicative that way. And large language models will take those words that we speak, and we'll get to the very essence of our problem and develop strategies. So that's no different than brands have operated in the advertising and marketing space for the last 100 years. So we have what's called category entry points, CEPs. CEPs exist in brand marketing. They're the emotional and situational triggers that cause people to go into the buying market. I've just done my BJJ lesson in the Leisure Center. I've walked into reception. I'm thirsty. I want a very quick drink, a hydration drink. There's a fridge there with Coca-Cola written on it. And that's a category entry point. That's a situational trigger. I'm thirsty. And then, so as a result, Coca-Cola very smartly realizing that people would need drinks once they come out of a workout in the leisure center, stick branded fridges, because when the branded fridges is there, that's more likely to see the Coca-Cola. You're more likely to buy a Coca-Cola. That's the reality of brand marketing. And it's as a science that existed. Online marketing is exactly the same. What are the category entry points that our buyers are in, and what do they do when they're in those situations? So, for example, if I'm thinking about booking a summer holiday and I'm going to the UK and I'm thinking about a caravan park, I might go to TikTok and look for best caravan parks in the UK and look for a video. I might go to Google and look for those videos. I might go to Google and look for a search. I might go to AI. And your presence and making yourself more available as a brand in those category entry points where your buyers are is going to be your organic search strategy. And that's where I think organic search strategy is going to come at, because knowing what buyers are doing and how they work and matching resources to them increases the likelihood that your brand gets chosen. So to give this analogy, so rather than, this is all good for the SEO industry, by the way. So we can get away from these metrics of of ROI. ROI is a terrible metric, by the way, and I'm happy to discuss why that is. But ROI is terrible. What we're talking about really is taking a brand from a 1 in 100 chance to a 2 in 100 chance of being chosen. Now, if you do that, that doubles the sales of a business, literally, and changes their life. In reality, it's a percentage basis, it's not that much. But what we do as a business and what we do as SEOs, if we develop search strategies for clients and develop assets, we then increase the likelihood of being chosen. And if we do that, that increases the revenue and protects margins, just like advertising has done. It takes us away from this thing of cost per click. It takes away everything. Now, I think the ad model for Google is going to be massively expensive. I think you're not going to pay per click, or your cost for acquisition per click is going to be something like, let's just say something crazy like £50 per click. Now, the reason why that is because in truth, your conversion will shoot through the roof with AI search. So they'll make that money in sales, because you'll be like, okay, a ROAS of 6 or 7 will be appalling. You'll be looking at ROAS of £9, out of £10 you make. You'll absolutely, as a paid search model, make a lot more money.
It will be more precise, right?
Exactly. So but that cost is going to go up, because you're literally paying for. And you won't pay for waste, but you look at your cost of acquisitions and it will be through the roof. So you're going to have to find other strategies. Now, I think that's what's going to happen. I think that's what they're going to do. That their model is going to work, where businesses are going to be starving. They'll say, right, we'll find ways to make profit on the back end, and even though our front end costs are higher. Now, from an organic search specialist, what you can do is come into a business and suddenly you have millions of different tools at your proposal. We're not just talking about SEO and organic search anymore. We're talking about humans using a multitude of search engines to make buying decisions. And that plugs us into everything, which again means that your benefit and your value as an individual skyrockets. It also means you have to understand social media, you have to understand copywriting, PR, all these kind of things. So you as an individual go almost like a brand strategist. You absolutely, the impact you can make in businesses is tremendous, but it takes that difference and an approach that's going to be very different. And that's what worries me about many SEOs. They can't walk into businesses and boardrooms and have these conversations because they're not either articulate enough. They want to be the person in the chair fixing schema. Forget about it. Them days are gone. You are now 100% in the marketing conversation. You have to put yourself there. If you don't put yourself in the brand marketing conversations and talk about revenue, you are done. And I don't care what agency you are or anything else like that. There'll be a lot of scurrying once this happens and this increases. But we need to grow up as an industry, have more intelligent conversations than just saying it's just SEO, which is intellectually weak. It isn't. And now this means we can be more articulate. We can generate better value, increase revenue and returns for clients, and also not be limited to Google. We've got multiple entry points because large language models allow that scale.
Yeah. Oh, you reminded me of a talk that I did last year at Digital Olympus from Alexandra Tachalova in Eindhoven. And that talk, I said, we need to learn how to talk the C-level language. C-levels don't want to know about structured data, how Google's changing. Oh, Google changes all the time. And that's sensationalism that we always put in our industry. C-levels want to know about, you said ROI, we're going to go back to that one, yeah? They want to know how much money they need to invest to get their return. They want to know how fast that's going to generate. What are the assurances that you're bringing to the table? Not just maybe we can do that, and if Google changes, we might lose all your money. We need to be more professional in terms of how we talk. So that is some of my worst nightmares. I always prepared for that. As a matter of fact, on Monday I went to do a presentation to one of a prospect of ours. And these guys are worth $2 billion in market share, market value, and so on. And I'm really prepared for that. But at some point, I'm getting too technical here. Roll back, because we need to focus on these guys. Their attention span is so short that you can't go saying this AI mode, this and that, schemas, and so on. I kind of slipped through the curve that I came back to it because I was, we can't really. They don't want to know about that. We just think. This is SEO. We're going to make your product be found by people that are interested into it. And you need to invest X to get Y out of it. Yep. And you said about ROI. You don't believe in that. So how do you balance short-term ROI with long-term GEO investments in terms of what metrics are you telling your clients? What should they expect, or what do they demand from you? How are you working with those things, Andrew?
So ROI is one of these horrible metrics that exist in the marketplace, and ROI is not meant to be a marketing metric. It isn't. It's a terrible metric, and most people understand that in marketing, but the reality is that business owners use that as a term. ROI was all about capital investment related to long-term infrastructure spends and what you get back. You know, it's going to cost me $3 million to build a leisure center. I keep talking about leisure centers, I don't know why. So it's going to cost us $3 million to build that leisure center. At which point in the future do we break even from that spend, and when do we start making profit? Long-term investments regarding that. What happened was ROI was and ROAS and POAS were all of a sudden plugged into every marketing model, and that's why Google's model is so attractive, because it's literally you pay for the click and you get a conversion at some point in the future, and you keep being present long enough and you get conversions. And that's where most of the marketing budget went, because actually it allows economists to make very logical decisions. If it's costing us XYZ to acquire a customer, we know how much profit we make on customers, and so forth and so on. And it's the same with direct marketing and direct ads. So it's not that ROI isn't something we should be aware of. It's just that we need to understand that it's a very abused metric anyway. Now, that is a challenging thing, because that's why brand marketing has gone down the pan. You know, the vast majority of brand marketing spend has been cut because people don't believe in brand marketing. That is the rather harsh reality. They want short-term gains, which is again the other reason why this fallout with GEO is going to be so spectacular and big, because everyone's invested so much in paid search and not in their own brands. There's very little difference between brands. There's so many competing for that, and so on. So the thing with ROI is this: is that if we presented it the way it really is as a metric, no one would buy anything from us. Right. That is the truth behind it. The way it really is your investment in your organic search strategy is an investment in your brand, and brand is where all the value is. So what we need to be saying to people is, how do we increase the likelihood of our brands being searched for? That is the truth. And GEO is a part of that, because what happens is, at the moment, if you go to Gemini, very, very few links in Gemini. You have to open up Google to search, which is probably why they do that. ChatGPT does have links, so you can click through to websites, and it's got UTM and things like that very often. But then occasionally it doesn't add links, so you have to open up your browser and search for it. So ChatGPT increases traffic to your website. Claude, all the rest of them do the same things. What then happens is you end up with this increase in brand search and increasing clicks to your website. So that's what you're doing. But what you're actually saying to people is, look, I'm going to come in as a business, and the activity we're going to do is going to absolutely increase the volume of people finding you over a period of time. The problem with GEO as a thing, a generative engine optimization, is the deliverables by agencies, and that is the challenge. So that's why I think that PR is a great model to move into, and I think content marketing is a great model to move into, and copywriting is a great model to move into. And from the SEO point of view, the organic search strategist, your job really is to know which levers to pull and report on them. It's not to do the work, it's going to be to strategize in the future, and to be able to have that very top level view to go into a business and say, right, this is what we're lacking, this is where the other people are, this is what we need to build, this is what you need. Your copy is very generic, it's not pulling out all the things. So you have to have deep levels of knowledge in those different sectors. Now, the one we can own mostly is content marketing, when we get away from keyword-driven content, because what we can say to people is we generally, as an industry, have produced a lot of content, so we do have a lot of skill there, and content marketers have arguably been shackled with keyword focused content for too long. And whereas content marketing is, what you do is you create an asset, you put it out there and market it, and you hopefully nudge some buyers there and then, and you actually hopefully get your attention of potential buyers in the future. So it's very much like direct advertising was. It's like sending a sales letter out in the post to your consumers, but it's in the form of a piece of content, an article. So I think as an organic search strategist, you have lots of things that you can do and sell that deliver very very fast value for a consumer, or very fast value for a brand. But so we're moving away from this buy now, get results in 6 months model anyway, to you hire an organic strategist and they come in and absolutely give value from day one. And, you know, you hire a PR agency, they should be landing PR for you from very, very straight away in the first month. If you hire an organic search strategist, he's going to turn around and figure out, okay, well, this is your content strategy, what I think you should go forward. And this is the big leap for SEOs. And that's what scares me for SEOs. They're just not on this playing field. They're just still denying this is just SEO and wanting to churn out keyword-based content and then rank for citations because an LLM prompt tool that fires out pseudo prompts based on keyword research is telling you you've got visibility. We have got to move away from those concepts and become very buyer and revenue focused. So ROI isn't a subject we should shy away from. What we should do is embrace it, but talk about it in a different terms. And also, by the way, you know, be realistic and say, yeah, you're paying for activity that drives value straight away, rather than the idea you're going to rank on a search engine and get results in 6 to 12 months. So our value proposition increases, our output changes, and we become more aligned to what businesses really want. So ROI conversations become better in a GEO world, not worse.
Yeah. I think when you said about the SEO professionals, I see that many of these, our industries, peers, colleagues, and so on, even the so-called experts that you mentioned in the beginning, some of them got away with SEO, but without knowing anything about marketing. Yeah. Now it's the time, mate. It's not because you understand how Google works, you rank well, you get everything that you don't say you do, but you do. But nowadays they're scared because they know it's about marketing now. If you don't understand the principles of marketing, if you don't understand how things work in terms of like what customer intents and so on, you're not going to get away with it anymore. So you need to understand. So you need to up the end. So guys, if those of you are scared about GEO and so on, go and buy some Philip Kotler books, learn the basics, because this is it. This is how it is. You know, that's how I'm saying. And as we move into the last section of our chat here, Andrew, we're coming up to the hour now. Let's get a bit tactical. How are you creating? How would you suggest brands or agencies, professionals, build a roadmap of like for GEO? How do you start everything? Do you need special people to it? Can you work with the SEO team? Do you need any tools? And how do you instill the GEO culture within the clients that are not that want that, or in the team as well?
Yeah. Okay. So it's a challenge. It's a moving target, and it's an evolving marketplace as well, which we need to have conversations. And this is why this podcast is great, because this is an example of that. So, and your first point is to prompt that. So you need to understand what a business's category entry points. That's a smart move anyway, by the way. So you need to understand what are the triggered situations that our customers find themselves in that end up being buyers. What are those situations? And I'll give you a very quick analogy. Restaurant in London, you know, if you're a restaurant in London near the theatre, you serve theatre diners. That's one of your category entry points. And it's very easy to whip up a landing page. From an SEO point of view anyway, it's probably no-brainer to say, you know, a restaurant near Covent Garden or things like that. You know, we're not saying that there isn't SEO tactics in GEO. There is, but what you have to do is look at this from a different point of view. So you have to look at the human point. What are the category entry points? What are the kind of prompts they're going to enter in those searches? And what are those situations? Now, once you map your category entry points, that'll give you some broad prompts that people find themselves in, you know, and you'll know your consumers based on data. And then you can look at, okay, well, are we representing this in our website? Do we have a page for this particular group of people in this situation? Do we talk about this? Okay, well, why are we the best? Do we reference why we're the best? Are we promoting why we're the best? So really, this is where this thing where it's just SEO. Well, actually, yeah, okay, it is on page optimization, but we're doing it not for keywords. You're actually doing this for people using prompts, and AI is going to find the solutions. So it's very much brand marketing. So realistically, you have to look at what we do, who you serve, what we do really well, and who is our ideal customer. And that's what we want to attract more of. And our positioning there? So it's all about your performance attributes. And that's what GEO really is. It's looking at your performance attributes as a business. what you do, who you serve, and are you marketed towards them specifically? If you're a restaurant that absolutely is bang on with allergies, and you do not mind serving people with allergies, in fact, you 100% are out there to serve people with allergies because you know you suffer of an allergy yourself, you care about that. Well, it makes sense to have a massively detailed menu with full of allergy information that somebody an LLM can go and find. It's very generous. You're probably only going to serve a small percentage of your audience, but that is an optimization for your performance attributes. So that's where you should start. What do we do? Are we promoting URL? Who do we serve? What circumstances bring them into our business? Do we have an asset to match? Are we absolutely giving every piece of information that we need to serve our consumers, both pre-purchase and post-purchase? And that's really what we're doing here. And then the content marketing side is a different sort of argument, and the PR side is putting yourself out there as a business and your expertise and commentary and so forth, and and reviews and so on. So realistically, it is digital brand marketing. That's what we're becoming.
Great one, Andrew. Thank you very much. And to sum things up here, what is keeping you up at night with all these transformations? Do you have any unresolved questions or anything that you should bring to the table? Or are you very clear with where things? It sounded to me that you're very clear where things are heading. So what would you leave as a lost move for everybody to sum things up here?
Yeah, so look, I'm not immune to the fact that the market is hard out there right now. We're in a global economic crisis. Cost of living is going up all over the place. That means people have less money to spend. That means marketing is impacted and marketing budgets are impacted, and that's true. And what tends to happen is we end up with very big demand pushes, and like we did post-COVID, where everyone decided digital was worth investing in, that grew a lot of agencies very quickly. You're going to have a similar sort of effect that comes into the place when AI mode becomes default. So realistically, the thing that keeps me up at night at the moment is Google dragging their feet, and because that is what's harming us as a sector, because we know we think we know what's coming, we can see the mechanics behind what's coming, but it's not there. And this is a problem that we have, and that's a protectionist view of Google, because they are trying to figure out their ad model in terms of how do we tell shareholders that our ad models just tanked, and how do we maintain that margins. So, and this is what's going to stop it coming. And all this time is ChatGPT is just going to grow and grow and grow, and we've got a very big danger that as a marketing industry or as an SEO industry, our clients are in paralysis. They don't want to invest long term in SEO because they see this change coming, and Google doesn't want to make this change because they know the impacts to their business. So what keeps me up at night mostly is the delays with Google to move this technology rapidly forward, which they need to do, and that's all. I think that's all we need now, is for them to make their move. And they threaten it, say it's coming, and when it comes, it'll come. But that's what keeps me up at night. When is it going to happen? Google need to make the move, but they don't care about us. They don't care about anybody else, which is the problem for the SEO industry, because they don't care about SEO industry either.
Yeah. Well, final thing for the Brazilian SEO community down here, Andrew. What would you leave as your last advice to everybody here moving forward?
If you're an SEO right now, you need to understand brand marketing, and that is the key. Now, there are some fantastic books I'd recommend reading Linked and The Formula by Albert Laszlo Barabasi. They are fantastic books. I recommend you read How Brands Grow 1 and 2 and Distinctive Brand Assets. I recommend you read How the Peddler Sings, or Why the Peddler Sings, sorry. I recommend you read also, in addition, I'm trying to think of some good ones for you. Storybrand by Donald Miller is another great book on marketing. And also, if you can get a copy, it's very expensive, Breakthrough Advertising by Eugene Schwartz, although that is very, very expensive. So, and these are the markets you need to understand now. Drayton Bird's Direct Digital Marketing and Advertising is another book. It's a very, he's been around for 80 odd years. He's 80 odd and he's a great, still writing now. So those are the platforms you need to get your head around. Brand marketing as a tool, as a strategy, and figure out how you're going to work in this world. And that's my advice to people: become a brand marketer and make search engine optimization more brand focused, and you will always be fine. And if not, we are in for some bumpy times ahead. and be prepared to adapt and be prepared to adapt fast.
Excellent. Andrew, thank you very much for your time. Thank you very much for sharing your knowledge. And I really want to get back into those two topics about the health of SEOs and how to catch criminals with SEO. That's a book, man. That is a book. So,
it is. I need to write that one. I do.
I hope to see you around maybe next year. I'm planning a few talks in Europe. So I hope to see you around maybe in Brighton or somewhere around, you know. So yeah, thank you very much for your time. And
pleasure.
I hope to talk again.
Thank you very much.
Cheers, man. Galerinha, obrigado. Para quem ficou até o final, o Andrew mandou várias sugestões de livros aí que eu vou colocar na descrição aqui do vídeo. Vocês vão encontrar lá aí abaixo. Para quem tá vendo, obrigado pela audiência. Agora, 7 horas da manhã, tivemos um probleminha técnico ali com o LinkedIn. Eu vou compartilhar o link lá. E quem tá vendo, quem chegou até aqui agora, tá vendo depois dessa live, não esquece de curtir o canal, compartilhar, comentar, fazer perguntas. Se tiver alguma dúvida, me manda aqui que eu mando pro Andrew, ele com certeza vai vir e vai responder para vocês. Então, muito obrigado, até a próxima aqui no Don't Panic, It's Organic.